If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome back to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a really good show again. I have a guest here in studio, she's also an author like me, and she's planning a writing conference, which is something that I have done. Some of you have attended my writing conference here in Agawam. It's the yWrite Writing Conference, and it's in November, the first Saturday of November. But we're going to talk about a conference coming up in April, a nice spring conference. So I have author, and when I say author, she has written prolifically for her whole life. And she's here today. We're going to talk a little bit about her books, but we're definitely going to talk about this conference, the Right Angles Conference, with Ellen Meeropol. Ellen, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me, Angela. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks. So, you've written 5 books. You've been part of an anthologies. You've been... I think one of the things I love finding out about you is that you seriously began writing in your 50s. And of course, for me, I'm in my 50s, and I feel like this is my own turning point where I'm starting to do this a little bit more seriously. I mean, obviously I have the show, and it's like, wow, you started in your 50s, you've got 5 books, and, what prompted you to start writing novels?
Well, I've always read novels, and, I would read a novel, and sometimes at the end I would think, oh, I wish I'd written that. And sometimes at the end I would think, maybe I could do that. And so I had always had it in the back of my mind to try my own hand at writing fiction. And in my 50s, it occurred to me, if you're going to do this, woman, you better get started. So I call myself a literary late bloomer.
Okay.
And it's been a wonderful and wild ride.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to join the Literary Late Bloomer Society. Maybe we can form a society, because it's so true. I mean, I felt the same way. I'll read a book and say, oh, I wish I wrote this, or I think I could write this.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll even read it and go, I was going to write a book just like this. And then there's other times where I'm like, why isn't there a book about this?
Right.
And, you kind of get called and drawn into that, imaginative and intuitive world.
Yes.
So this is your most recent book that you've written, The Lost Women of Azalea Court, which, I was a florist for years. So just knowing that there's, flowers in it is wonderful. But of course, talking about these lost women, you want to tell us a little bit about the book, but about how you started even writing the book.
Well, actually, the book itself started from an email from a friend about 25 years ago, and she lived on a small sort of self-contained street in South Carolina, and she wrote me an email saying, we had to evacuate, there are SWAT teams on our street, there's apparently an elderly man who may be in trouble but may be armed, and it just, the email just sort of, my writing brain just said, that's very dramatic to have something like that on your street. And I put it away in my folder of ideas to look at when I'm done with a current project. And I didn't do anything with it for years. But after I finished the 4th novel, and I was looking for a new idea, I took it out and I started writing something that was very loosely based on that situation. And it was one of those situations that went nowhere. There was no juice to the story. And then in 2017, I moved to a condo on the grounds of Northampton State Hospital, the old hospital. And
that's an inspiring
sudden,
place to
absolutely
live for a writer.
So the ghosts of all of the people who had been there started whispering to me, you should set your novel here. And so I did. And I changed the story to reflect the setting, and the backstory became the hospital and what had happened there over 135 years. The basic story is that an elderly woman goes missing from her house on Azalea Court, which is a made-up street on the grounds of the old hospital. Her husband was the psychiatrist in charge of the hospital for the last 40 years of its operation, and that's what sets off the story.
Very cool. And it is that, the muses or, the dead people, whatever, they start talking to us. And
I don't believe in ghosts, but they talk to me.
They do. I know, these invisible energy. And, it's like I know that feeling of trying to write their story and trying to incorporate like the reality of another story into it because, like when you have the inspiration from what happened to your friend in North Carolina, you can bring that to another setting. So I
absolutely
totally resonate with that. And I'm so glad that you shared that because, again, as a writer, it makes me feel normal because I think it's hard sometimes to feel normal in this world.
No, because we live in our heads so much of the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's hard. We know what's going on in there, but it's hard to put it on. Once you get it on a page, people can see what's going on. So, yeah, and in the books, you can get all your books on Amazon, right?
Yes, or bookshop.org or your favorite independent bookstore.
Oh, nice. All
which is what.
And I will add that to the links below and everything
Great.
so that
Yeah.
people can, go read your stories and,
Great.
that would be wonderful. I do want to talk about the Writers' Conference. I attended the Right Angles, which is the name of it, Right Angles Conference. I believe it was pre-pandemic.
Right. Right.
And it was a fabulous day up at Mount Holyoke. And I know how much goes into a conference, just not only by attending it, but by, putting on my own conference here. And you're also part of Straw Dog Writers.
Right.
And, Straw Dog Writers is their kind of own writing group open to the public. But Straw Dog Writers has merged. I'm going to call it a merge with Right Angles. Are you hosting Right Angles Conference?
What happened is that Right Angles, which actually started as a conference in 1987 as a project of the local chapter of the National Writers Union, it went for, over 30 years, and COVID did it in. And I was on the board of the old Right Angles Inc. that put on the conference. And in about 2.5, 3 years ago, we said, we're done. We don't have the energy to recreate this. But as you said, I'm also part of Straw Dog Writers Guild. I was one of the founders in 2010. And it seemed like a perfect match. And so Straw Dog Writers Guild, which is a kind of an umbrella writing and literary organization for all of Western Massachusetts, all 4 counties, decided to take on the Right Angles Conference with the blessing of the old board. But it also needed to change if it was going to be part of Straw Dog. Straw Dog, as I said, wants to include all 4 Western Mass counties. Straw Dog believes very, very strongly that writers should be paid for our work. And so we needed to be able to pay an honorarium to each presenter. And that's something the old Right Angles simply couldn't do.
Yeah.
So we knew we were going to have to expand. We also, understanding that writing and publishing is not a level playing field, that many women, people of color, and people who are marginalized for other reasons in our communities don't have the same voice that particularly the old white men who sort of are literary.
They don't even need to be old white men. They just
No,
sometimes
they
have
can
to
be
be the
young
white
white
men.
But so we wanted to really include a much more diverse audience. And so that's what went into the development of the new Right Angles Conference.
So you were one of the founding members of Straw Dogs. I want to talk a little bit about Straw Dogs. It's open to all people, all races, all genders,
writers,
everything.
yeah.
And all forms of writing, not just novel writers.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about how it formed and how you became a founder of Straw Dog Writers and how it's been so successful all these years.
It's been just fantastic. So in 2010, Patricia Lee Lewis, a beloved writing teacher in our region, called together 4 or 5 friends, all writers, and said, we need to coordinate our efforts more. Mm-hmm. We need to help people find the writing resources, the writing groups or classes or workshops that they need. And we need to be out there in the public so people will know that these opportunities exist. Yeah. And from there, we developed a model that is you can become a member, and there are certain things that are only open to members, but mostly it's for anybody who wants to come. Our programs are open to anybody. They are either free or very low cost. Mm-hmm. And we have programs, we have open mics.
Where are the meetings and where are the programs held?
They're held around the region. Mostly, I would say they're in Hampshire County. But we have made a real effort to come into Hampden County and Berkshire and Franklin County. So we really welcome writers from those
counties. And how does
counties.
one become a member of Straw Dog Writers?
You go to the website, which is strawdogwriters.org, I think. I'm terrible at remembering these things. And you can sign up for an e-newsletter that comes out, the big one once a month, and a sort of reminder a second time. You don't have to be a member to get the newsletter, but it lists all of the events. Lots of open mics.
I see lots you do a lot of open mics.
We do a lot of open mics because that's one thing that writers have told us. They want a place to read their own work and to hear other people's work.
I tell you, I've been writing, I've been the closet writer for years, you know, and when I started at the Springfield Creative Writers Museum, I think I'm saying that all wrong, Springfield Museum Creative Writers Group, when I'm reading my pieces out loud, I realized I learn so much from reading my own work out loud because I can hear what I want to say. Yeah. Because sometimes I'll read off the page and it's not exactly how I wanted to say it.
Right.
So I'm doing my editing right there. And again, listening to other writers share their story, like wow, it just makes me a better writer because I'm always blown away by some of the pieces that they've written. And I'm like,
right.
What? How did you write that? You described something in 3 words, or 2 words. And, it's amazing.
It is.
It's very helpful.
And the other thing that Straw Dog does is that we offer an emerging writer fellowship to a writer of color. And this involves a monetary grant as well as a lot of opportunities. We also collaboration with the Mount, Edith Wharton's home in the Berkshires, have a writing residency that we co-sponsor for, I believe it's 9 writers in the month of March at the Mount, and which is a fantastic opportunity for an emerging writer. So that's sort of what great. Straw Dog has done, and I'm just so thrilled that the organization agreed to take on the Right Angles Conference. It's
I am
now
too, because it was
project of Straw Dog.
Yeah. So how are you personally balancing being a writer, running a conference, heading the Straw Dog Writers, being a woman in the world? Like it's a lot to balance and time manage and get it all done.
Yeah. The conference is way, way, way more work than I anticipated when I said, sure, I'll coordinate this. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
But we have a fantastic committee of about 20 volunteers who are putting on this conference. We've had enormous support, both financial and in-kind donations from the writing and business communities.
That's great.
So which has made it possible for us to offer really significant scholarship aid.
Yeah.
So the conference is $150, but so far 25 or 30 writers have gotten a very steep discount on that to be able to attend.
For $150 for an all-day conference where you're going to be able to go to workshops, be able to listen to people talk, participate, and I know you have some agents coming in, so people can meet with an agent if they're looking for whether it's advice on how to continue or hey, will you please recognize my work and represent me.
Well, this year actually we've decided to have the writers meet with agents via Zoom the week leading up to the conference, so people will not have to miss any of the conference. And the other really exciting thing about the conference is our keynote speaker. So Honore Jeffers, who is primarily a poet. I just bought and started reading one of her volumes of poetry, The Age of Phyllis. This is about the first previously enslaved woman to publish a book, and it's amazing. And her novel,
she's obviously a very prolific writer, and
she's
let's
amazing.
just turn the book this way because it's always impressive to see all those pages.
I've read this,
and it's not a picture book.
No, I've read this novel twice now.
Wow.
It's that good. So Honore Fanon Jeffers,
and it's called The Love Songs.
Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yeah.
And it is a phenomenal book about race, about family, about history, about legacy. It's just, it's wonderful, and I can't wait to have her come to our region and inspire us.
I want to get inspired by her, and I have questions, for her too. I'd love to have her on the show. She did get the Oprah Books Club's 2021, little stamp of approval here, which of course for writers we know what that means, and to get that nod from, I'm going to say nod from Hollywood, but nod from someone as well known and well liked and well respected. That's really a good boost for any author.
Well, this book has won or been a finalist for all of the big prizes, and was on Obama's list for 2021, I think. It's really quite wonderful, and we're very excited.
So she's coming in. She's going to do a keynote
She's
talk.
coming in. She will do the keynote. She will also be awarded the Abel Meeropol Social Justice Writing Award, which Abel Meeropol was my father-in-law. He was a poet and playwright and songwriter. He wrote Strange Fruit, the song that Billie Holiday made so famous and was called the most important song of the 20th century by Time magazine. So my husband and I have funded this award from the royalties from Strange Fruit, and she will receive that award at the conference and talk to us about writing work that tries to deeply understand and to change the world.
Yeah, to give you that knowledge, the wisdom, the history, and personal experience. It's so important. Yeah. I know you were saying that your father-in-law, who funded this. Fun fact: your brother-in-law was my economics teacher in college.
Right.
I saw the name. I'm like, is that your husband? How are you related to Professor Meeropol? And of course, he was a fantastic guy, and I enjoyed it. He's very entertaining, and he has his own stories. He has his own stories. So it's nice for me to know that my connection to the Meeropol family continues all these years after college.
Yes. Well, and also Abel Meeropol lived his last few years in Hampton County. He was at the Jewish nursing home for the last years of his life. We brought him up here when he could no longer live alone.
Are you writing his memoir? Someone taking that on?
No, I'm hoping that there's a family member I'm hoping is going to do something really wonderful about him. But
it definitely needs to be done.
He's
for sure.
Quite a story.
Yeah, quite a story is right. That's for another show. So, again, we talked about in the beginning how you really started, I'm going to say, seriously writing after the age of 50, and then, more into your retirement years. You were a nurse, an RN for many years.
I was a nurse and then a nurse practitioner. I worked in Springfield at Shriners Hospital for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great facility.
It was a great
to work
place
at.
to work.
They do such wonderful things. My family would host golf tournaments every year to benefit Shriners Hospital. So we did the Columbus Day Italian Open at Crestview Country Club for about 12, I think
Wonderful.
it was like 12, 13 years. So it's really nice. And Shriners has helped so many people that I personally know. So the conference is April 6th. It's a Saturday. It's all day.
Yep.
How do people register for the conference?
You go to the website, rightanglesconference.com, and there you can read the program, you can read the bios for all the presenters.
So you have your program all done?
Everything is done, and
That's
there's a
great.
register button. So,
Okay. So, I mean, especially nowadays, it's so easy to just go online. Everything's go online, register. Where, not filling out papers, mailing a check in. So it's very easily accessible for people to get the information to find out the offerings that are happening there. I'll call them professors, but like the facilitators and instructors that are coming in.
Yeah.
So, for me, I know when I host the right angles, the yWrite conference, it is a lot to coordinate, trying to secure who's going to, who you want to invite to come and facilitate a class, and then, having them get your offer and then finding out what they're willing, to do, or present it to them to say, hey, can you write, want to teach a class on ABC?
Yeah.
So that alone, that coordination, securing a location.
Yeah.
And where is the location for the Right Angles Straw Dog Writers Conference?
Well, as you said, the old Right Angles used to be at the Hallowell Center at Mount Holyoke College. We decided we wanted to take it away from an academic setting and into a community setting. So it will be at the Northampton Center for the Arts, which has just been renovated and is just gorgeous and has a lot of parking. But things you have to think about.
It is so true, because when you look at a venue, you want, number one, it has to host the people, the amount of people that you're planning on having. And parking is so important. I've done some things where, there's no parking, and I'm like, running late to get there because I'm parking over here and running around. So that's very important. Securing a location, securing the facilitators and the presenters, getting your keynote speakers, coordinating. Are you having vendors that are going to come in, or anybody who publishes books, things like that?
No, we're doing that a little differently. In the past, we had a literary fair with different publishers and groups coming. This time, one of our members offered to do what she calls book and writing bundles, which are baskets of either a number of books from a local publisher, services like editing and or coaching. We'll have one basket that's the books from our keynote. And when people come in, part of their registration is they get 5 tickets, which they can put in baskets.
Oh, that's so
And
awesome.
so some people will go home with a piece of the conference.
Yeah.
And that's a way to try to include a different way of including community organizations.
Well, and I know when I attended Right Angles, I mean, there was so much community there. I mean, I was like, this is such an awesome day. I mean, I wanted to take every class. I was like, can I do 10 minutes in this class and 10 minutes in this class?
Yeah.
And, they did some dialogue writing class, and I feel bad I can't remember the facilitator, but, kind of matching you up with other people that you don't know, like literal, meeting a new friend right there in the room, and then creating characters and then creating the dialogue for it. And it was just such a fun exercise.
That's great.
And then the open mics and, all of that was just so much knowledge coming. It's like I'm a sponge. I just soak it all in. And so for any writer, no matter what stage they're at, if they're at the beginning stage, if they've published 18 novels,
right?
I mean, it's a place to. Conferences are so important to go, because it definitely helps you to become a better writer. But you network, you meet people, you get more exposure, you find things that you didn't even know you needed.
Yeah. And in order to make that happen, we have a longer than usual lunch break. And there'll be some tables that are labeled YA or horror or poetry.
Yeah.
So people who maybe don't know anybody else but want to make some friends.
Oh, I love that.
You can sit down there. We'll have other tables with some of the presenters or by county. So if you've come up from Hampden County and you don't see anyone but you want to meet some neighbors who also write. So that, I think we have an hour and a half for the lunch break to allow people time.
Yeah, I loved walking in that cafeteria and being like, oh, I want to sit at the memoir table. Oh, no, I want to sit at the murder mystery table. Oh, no, I want to sit at, and then just seeing the authors in their, little hubs and knowing that you could, very easily approach someone to say, oh, so you're at, you're at the table about fantasy. Tell me about fantasy. Right away it gives you the icebreaker to start talking.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited that the Right Angles Conference is back and that Straw Dogs is taking this on. Yeah. So I'll be there. I hope some of you will be coming there. Tell us, again, where to register. Is there a deadline to register?
I think we'll take reservations until we're full, and then we'll start a mailing list. There are only a couple of dozen slots still open.
Wow.
It's
register today.
It's gone really well. But we haven't done this before, this particular group of us, so we don't know. One thing I'd like to share is that, you were talking about deciding on who to invite as your presenters. And we didn't want to just do the same old that we had done before with the old Right Angles. So we held pop-up conversations, one in each of the 4 counties, partnering with an organization in that county.
So actually asking writers what they want to hear.
What do you want in a conference? What is it that's missing in your writing life that you would really like to hear? And I was surprised at the results because we heard fewer requests for how do I get published, or even fewer requests for craft, although there are both of those and they're both included. What we heard a lot was, how do voices of people who don't usually get heard? Yeah. Are there ways of having your work heard beyond a book, a physical book?
Of course.
What are the other ways of
to
getting
tell
work?
Storytelling. It
and
doesn't
to
have
get
to be
it out there.
Between a binding. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. How can we give back to our community? So the kinds of things people wanted were a little bit different, and we tried our best to design the program based on those requests, which was really challenging and very, very exciting.
Yeah, no, I love that. I started yWrite because, as a writer, I wanted to know why other people write. Because you don't want to, it's sometimes a little anxiety driven to be writing.
Yeah.
And, how someone overcomes the anxiety and moves forward with it, and learning, I like to ask simple questions sometimes, like, do you handwrite? Do you type on a computer? Because these things fascinate me, on how our brains work and how our imaginations work. So, yeah, I can see that because, a lot of people self-publish nowadays, so it's not so much about how to get published, it's about how to get my voice out there, how to get my story told.
Right.
Do I have to write the book myself? Do I hire a ghostwriter? There's so many, do I give a presentation? There's so many ways to be storytellers. So
that's right. You
definitely have, it's going to be wonderful. The Right Angles Conference on April 6th. Your books are available. Want to tell us again?
Yes, on bookshop.org, which is the independent bookstore alternative to Amazon.
Okay.
Local bookstores either carry them or can order them. My website is ellenmeeropol.com. It's just very
Kinship of a Clover, which is such a pretty book, and Her Sister's Tattoo. So. I always love how the titles, definitely jump out at you. So I love it. And I'd love to talk more about your books. Maybe we can have you back on the show another time. But right now, we want to encourage the public and all writers to come out to the Right Angles Conference on April 6th of 2024. And if you want more information, you can contact Ellen, contact yWrite, and go to the websites, which I will link down below. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Angela. This was fun.
Really fun, really fun. And I want to thank my audience for tuning in today because, without you watching the show, I'm still going to learn, but I want to share everything. So thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Thank you to Studio 954 and Agawam Media for helping to facilitate to get this out into the world. And at this point of the show is when I'm going to ask you to, pick up your own pen and start writing, because that's why you're here. You have a story to tell. And, we have different prompts to get our stories out. But in honor of this Right Angles Conference, I want you to imagine that you're walking into that cafeteria and you see all these tables of all these different genres. What table do you think you would be drawn to? Whether it's something you think you're writing a memoir, or you want to write a murder mystery or fantasy, or maybe you're going to do a comic book, who knows? But, what table would you go to? And I want you today to take maybe 5-10 minutes and write down some of the questions that you might want to ask some of the authors at that table that can help you be a writer like them too. All right, so write your questions down, and I will see you next time on yWrite. Thank you. See you later.